In the quiet neighborhoods of California, beneath warm suburban lights and safe-looking streets, a shadow moved silently for more than a decade. He watched families, followed routines, studied weaknesses, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Residents called him many names: the Visalia ransacker, the East Area rapist, the original Night Stalker, never realizing they were describing the same man. For years, he terrorized an entire state, slipping through police lines, mocking investigators, and vanishing into the darkness. This is the story of how one of America's most elusive predators rose, terrorized, and ultimately fell, the full, chilling journey of the man the world would come to know as the Golden State Killer. Joseph James DeAngelo was born on November 8, 1945, in Bath, New York, into a family shaped by military discipline, instability, and frequent movement. His father, a United States Air Force sergeant, maintained a strict and often tense household, while his mother worked long hours to support their constantly relocating family. From early childhood, Joseph's world was defined by emotional distance, family conflict, and the rigid expectations of military life. His siblings would later describe an environment marked by chaos and trauma, experiences that quietly formed the inner landscape of a boy who learned to suppress emotions and mask his true thoughts behind silence. During his early years, DeAngelo lived with his family in various states and even spent time in West Germany due to his father's deployments. The constant relocation deprived him of long-term friendships and stability, making him both isolated and adaptable. As a teenager in California during the late 1950s and early 1960s, he appeared outwardly ordinary. He joined the Boy Scouts, attended school regularly, and rarely caused visible trouble. Yet beneath the surface, there were already signs of secrecy and behavioral issues that puzzled those around him. He developed a fascination with entering homes, stealing small objects, and observing personal belongings, a pattern that foreshadowed the crimes he would later commit as an adult. After graduating high school, DeAngelo enlisted in the United States Navy in 1964. He served as a damage controlman during the Vietnam War, gaining experience in tactical maneuvering, discipline, weapons handling, and operating in high-pressure environments. The military refined his ability to move quietly, plan carefully, and remain emotionally detached, skills that, in hindsight, would become chillingly relevant. When he returned to California after his service, he appeared to be reintegrating into normal life. Using military benefits, he studied criminal justice in college, an ironic choice for someone who would one day become one of the most elusive criminals in American history. He earned his degree and moved toward a career in law enforcement. In the early 1970s, Joseph DeAngelo began working as a police officer. He first joined the police department in Exeter, California, and later moved to Auburn. His colleagues viewed him as strict, serious, and sometimes overly aggressive, yet he blended well enough into the role of a reliable officer. During this time, he married Sharon Huddle, a young woman studying law. Together they built what looked like a traditional suburban life. They bought homes, raised children, and presented the image of a stable family. No one suspected that DeAngelo was living two lives, the life of a husband, father, and police officer, and another life that lurked in the shadows, one defined by obsession, compulsion, and violent criminal behavior. In 1974, the quiet city of Visalia began experiencing an unusual wave of break-ins. Homes were entered while residents slept, small objects were taken, and household items were rearranged in bizarre, precise ways. This offender came to be known as the Visalia ransacker. More than 100 burglaries shared the same pattern: stolen mementos, disturbed rooms, and a sense of violated privacy. These crimes carried a psychological signature rather than a financial motive. At the same time, D'Angelo was living within driving distance of Visalia, working as a police officer, and maintaining a life that appeared respectable. The connection would not be made for more than 40 years. By 1976, the Visalia ransacker seemed to vanish, only for a new and more terrifying offender to emerge in the Sacramento area: the East Area Rapist. This predator carefully studied neighborhoods for days or weeks, learning the habits of families, mapping escape routes, and striking after dark. He entered homes quietly, often through sliding glass doors or windows, tying up victims with intricate bindings. He left behind no fingerprints, moved with military-like precision, and escaped police dragnets repeatedly. His crimes were characterized by psychological manipulation and control. As panic spread across Northern California, entire communities changed their routines. Gun sales surged, people installed new locks, and neighborhoods formed watch groups. The identity of the attacker remained a mystery. Meanwhile, Joseph D'Angelo, living in the same region, continued working as an officer, until 1979, when he was fired for shoplifting dog repellent and a hammer. At the time, this strange incident seemed insignificant. Only years later did retired detectives realize that the items he stole were tools he frequently used in his crimes. Shortly after his firing, another wave of crimes began in Southern California, committed by someone later called the original Night Stalker. This offender's actions were more violent, more controlled, and more calculated than before. Couples were attacked in their homes, and the pattern of stealth and planning was eerily similar to the earlier crimes in Northern California. Families were terrorized across Orange, Ventura, and Santa Barbara counties. But without modern DNA technology, investigators could not connect the cases. They believed they were dealing with entirely separate offenders. The idea that one man was responsible seemed impossible. By 1986, the attacks suddenly stopped. The killer appeared to vanish completely. Some investigators believed he had died, been imprisoned, or moved far away. In truth, he had simply grown older, settled into family life, and retreated into normalcy. For the next 3 decades, Joseph D'Angelo lived quietly and inconspicuously. He worked for many years as a truck mechanic at a distribution center. He raised 3 daughters with his wife, though their marriage eventually fell apart. They had been looking for one. The breakthrough came in 2018 through the revolutionary use of genetic genealogy. Investigators uploaded the unknown killer's DNA profile to a public genealogy website, where users voluntarily share genetic information to build family trees. The system returned several distant relatives. Using those relatives as starting points, genealogists built out family lines, eliminating possibilities based on age, geography, and gender. The family tree kept narrowing until only one living man fit all criteria: Joseph James D'Angelo of Citrus Heights, California. A surveillance team quietly monitored him, collecting DNA from a discarded tissue and a handle on his car door. When laboratory results came back, the match was perfect. More than 40 years of mystery collapsed into a single name. On April 24, 2018, officers surrounded D'Angelo's home. He walked outside calmly, seemingly unaware that the past he'd outrun for decades had finally caught him. He was arrested without incident. The discovery shocked the nation. A former police officer, father, grandfather, and quiet neighbor was the serial offender who had terrorized California for 12 years. The arrest represented one of the most significant criminal breakthroughs in American history. In 2020, to avoid the death penalty, Joseph DeAngelo pled guilty to multiple murders and numerous violent crimes. He admitted to his actions in a low, frail voice, appearing almost unrecognizable compared to the agile predator he once was. Victims and families packed the courtroom, many speaking about the decades of trauma, fear, and grief he had caused. DeAngelo, now elderly and sitting in a wheelchair, muttered a final apology, "I'm truly sorry." He was sentenced to multiple consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He will spend the rest of his life in prison, confined to a small cell, stripped of the control and anonymity that once allowed him to terrorize entire regions. Today, DeAngelo exists only as inmate number P00525, an old man behind concrete walls. His story stands as one of the most complex and disturbing criminal histories in modern America, a man who lived behind two identities, one ordinary and one monstrous, a man who managed to evade capture for 4 decades, and a man whose downfall came not from witnesses or confessions, but from the power of genetics, perseverance, and modern forensic science. His case reshaped the future of criminal investigations and left an indelible mark on history. The story of the Golden State Killer is not merely a chronicle of crimes, it is a story about trauma, technology, obsession, deception, and the unwavering determination of those who refuse to let the truth stay buried.